Yeah, so how's morale in, are you in Lawrence? No, you're in Oklahoma. Okay. Oklahoma's coming up. It's kind of it seems like a hidden place, but now I start to hear some buzz about it.
Interesting. I mean, I love it. I love things. I love there being buzz, but then I also think like if things grew, it might get annoying. And it's beautiful here. I love it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that's the curse of your city getting too cool that you always hear Portlanders complain about, and New York City, and again, it's like Milwaukee. It's one of those places where it's. My friend George always says it's the 4 months of frigid Arctic they keep all the douchebags out, because otherwise Milwaukee would be booming. Be too many people here.
Totally. I've had to spend a bunch of time up there in recent years, and I like it. Just when I went there on tour, we only ever saw like around the rave, and so we didn't get like the best impression at first.
Yeah.
But then now, like I've worked with a bunch of people and have a bunch of friends there, and gotten to see like other parts of town that are cool, and I really enjoy it there. Yeah,
if the rave is the only place you're seeing in town, you're probably going to think Milwaukee's a pile. That's 3 blocks from where Dahmer did most of his work.
Oh yeah, that's always like the first thing they everyone points out. It's crazy.
I think my buddy and I did like on this podcast, we did like 12 minutes on Dahmer last week, so we won't stay there. But yeah, man, I remember going to the rave as a little kid, and it was. It always added to the thrill. Not only you were going to see a rock and roll show as a tiny kid, but you also might probably get mugged, which it's just added a lot to the whole experience.
I remember there's like that Taco Bell. I don't know if it's still there, but it was like kind of across the street from it, like Caddy Corner, if I remember right. And
hell yeah,
that was always the most sketchy Taco Bell I can ever remember. But we always
yeah. Yeah. I remember when Taco Bell was like a big deal, or it was really buzzing when we were in high school. Like maybe that was just our class, but we would like go to Taco Bell and just loiter around.
I worked at Taco Bell in high school, so that was my first like job I held for a decent amount of time, like 3 years.
Yeah, I was a McDonald's guy. I was 2 years at Mickey D's. Why did you opt for Taco Bell and not for like more of the down the pipe like classic options like BK or McDonald's?
Well, at first I worked at a grocery store across the street, and I only worked there for a couple weeks, and I had a friend who worked at the Taco Bell, and he's like, "Well, come work here." And so I was like, "I'm going to do that." And then it was like the best hookup. Like that was that time when everyone worked somewhere and you trade hookups.
Yes.
And so,
what were some of the trades you made?
There was like, I had a friend who managed a Papa John's, and then there was like a sandwich place that a few people worked at, and just all kinds of things like that always.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're like trading with the deli, you would have to probably trade a lot more tacos for like one deli sandwich, just due to market value.
What's funny though is that was the most like my friends just ran the place. So like I would literally go in and I'd be like, "Can I get something?" They're like, "Just go in the walk-in and make it yourself."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very 90s, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know what the fast food scene is like now, but I can't believe it would be like that. I do remember it being really exciting those years when everyone got jobs for the first time, because it was like, oh, we're like professionals, but we're still like delinquents and we're 15 or 14. And yeah, you would go and visit your buddy at the YMCA, and you'd go, play basketball for free. And then he'd take off his shift and come like hoop it up. And before you know it, like he's ditching work in his own YMCA to play 5-on-5 pickup ball,
That's great.
Yeah, man. When was there like a turning point where growing up, you're like, oh, these part-time jobs are killing me. My morale is in the toilet. Like I need to try something else. Was there like a pivotal moment?
Not particularly. I did end up, when they opened a Guitar Center in town, I ended up getting a job there, and one, to try to get some discounts, and two, the big pivot there was, oh my God, I can have a job where I don't have to take a shower as soon as I get home. And that was amazing. That made it totally worth it.
I thought you were going to say I don't have to take a shower before I go to work.
No, I didn't have to do that at any of them.
I almost had a job at Guitar Center. After I got out of school, I was doing job interviews there, and this guy named Chops was the boss. And this guy was amazing. I mean, you know, he was called Chops because he had like huge Neil Young sideburns that grew 1.5 inches off the side of his face. But real,
it wasn't
cool
his talent.
Oh no, actually, yeah. It's funny how that never crossed my mind. But he's like, you want the job, and I wanted to work for this guy, but it was like, I don't know, it was like, I think he offered me like $6.50 an hour, and like I could make more at being a lawn boy. So I think I went with being a lawn boy for like 2 summers.
I was just talking the other day about how when I started at Taco Bell, minimum wage was $4.25, and that was
holy shit.
Yeah, and that was what I started. That was my first job, $4.25.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was $5.15 when I started at McDonald's, but that felt like a lot to me because I was 14, living with my parents. So I equated it to 1 CD at Best Buy. You know, I'd work 3 hours on the fry later, and then I'd get to go buy like a, Bare Naked Ladies CD after work.
Hell yeah!
What was the first album you ever owned?
When I was 5 years old, I bet we were on vacation, and I loved Kiss, and there was a Destroyer on LP, and it was on sale for $5, and I begged my brother to let me borrow $5, which he did, and my mom got really mad at him for that. So I did, and that's what I got. And when I got home, I had to rake leaves all day to earn the $5 and pay him back.
That's a cool brother. Did he charge you interest?
He did not.
What a good man.
He was, he was 6 years older than me. So he introduced me to a lot of stuff. Like I loved Kiss. And then like when Master of Puppets came out, he goes, here's your new favorite band.
Tell me about like, cause Kiss, I just never understood. I think I was a little late to the party. It was like, it never registered with me. Why are people so obsessed with Kiss that they've sold 1 trillion albums?
I mean, those early records have, if you like just dumb, awesome hard rock songs, they're good. And then, then obviously all the theatrics. I mean, as a little kid, as a 5-year-old, the makeup was a big selling point, and the blood and all that stuff. Right.
Were they kind of the first band to like really almost take theatrics as a priority to the music? A lot of people are going to want to kill me for saying that.
I mean, that's probably a good argument to be made. I mean, as far as like a stage show, like I'm having trouble thinking of some that were that intense before them.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. Like I enjoy that side of things. I don't know much about like event production, but as far as like, I find it fun, like the marketing side of music and all that sort of thing. And I remember early on, like being really into it to the point where like I was not working on the actual music enough, and like listening to some of those early demos, I was like, this sucks. I gotta focus on the tunes first,
Yeah. Was that like, what year would that have been?
That would have been me as like a 20-year-old. I don't know. That would have been, I think yesterday was my birthday. So like 14 years ago. Yeah. Okay. I can't do math in reverse.
I was going to say like that early to mid 2000s in particular, it felt like every band had to pretend to be pro. And that was the big thing, was like you had to have this perception of like you were a real band doing it. You got to have press kits and all this stupid stuff, that everything but the song. You're right. Like it was like everyone's concentrating on the wrong thing.
Yeah, totally. And I remember it being a big thing where guitar players would have like 2 guitar cabs that were like as tall as them. And they would totally. Like, I remember carrying around one of those, and that for like no reason other than it looked cool.
Or get road cases when it's like you barely tour.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a whole thing, and it's just bizarre to think about that being like kind of the advent of the internet. That's when like iTunes was coming up, and the internet was getting fast enough where you could actually do shit on it. And I remember just it being the Wild West and no one having a clue what to do or where to put their time or effort. And it drove me to anxiety hell. Like I didn't know how to market music on the internet. And, you know, you got to take a new lesson on it. I feel like every third week. Yeah.
Now is when I especially feel that, like, I don't know what to do, like how you do it anymore. And I being older and don't have the desire as much anymore too. It's bad.
Yeah. So you're living in the studio now, right? Or most of it, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I spend most of my time for sure.
Okay. Because All American Rejects, you guys were doing, I think Johnny Pugh was telling me you were doing like, I don't know, 15 shows a year, like kind of picking your battles.
Yeah. Yeah. Just taking it easy. Cause we burned ourselves out for so many years of just nonstop touring. And yeah, it's just to a point now where it's like, be more smarter, not harder about it, you know? And so
that's very wise. Was there like a moment on the road where like, what was like the most burnt out moment on the road where you're like, fuck, reevaluation?
I don't know if I can think of a specific one, but there was definitely times like definitely touring Move Along and When the World Comes Down, those two records, like where as soon as those records were done, we were like back on the road and just nonstop for like 2 years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sorry to cut you off. Must have been, I mean, you're on the rocket ship at that point. That must have been a huge thrill. I imagine it's all the tour buses and like a fairly, for lack of a better word, luxurious style of touring. Oh yeah.
I mean, I definitely am not complaining in that respect. Yeah, we definitely were very lucky and had it as good as it gets as far as touring goes. But
that's fun. What about before that? What did you guys ever have to work the toilet bowl circuit early on or?
Oh yeah, we did lots of tours and shitty bars with no one there. Oh yeah, we put in those days too, which those days are fun.
Was there a time where you're like, all right, something's happening, you know, I can feel it. We just got to keep plowing.
Yeah, there, you know, right around the time the first album came out, like it wasn't very long once that happened that things started feeling like specifically, there was a tour we did opening for Homegrown. We were actually the second of 4 bands.
Oh, and I love Homegrown.
Yeah, they were great. It was a really fun tour, and like midway through that tour, I think we became the big draw of the tour. Ooh. Yeah, and so like, or at least is up there, I think, with Homegrown, and so that was like, and they totally were just like laughed it off and understood. But it was that was the moment where like, oh shit, like we see a bunch of people leaving after the second band play, and I'm like, that sucks.
Wow, yeah, I could see where that would be exciting, but Homegrown, what a band for being a sport, you know, like just being aware and self-aware, and it's always a cool thing when you hear those stories where it's like there's a big band taking another band on tour, and then like 3 years later the roles have reversed, but both bands are still looking after each other and taking each other on tour. I find that very fun.
Yeah, totally.
I've had a really good time over the quarantine starting to like do like some collaborations, like, hey, are you up for singing harmony on this song, playing whatever? And that was always, I feel like, really hard to tee up before this because like no one was around, no one was at home. And now it's like people are like down, they're like sending me files back. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's some silver linings to this stuff.
Do you do much collabs, or are you noticing that in the studio with stuff you're making?
I do some stuff sometimes, and this year, because of everything, I haven't been able to do as much like producing stuff, so I've been doing more mixing than anything. But yeah, if people ask, I'm always down for that kind of stuff usually, and it's fun.
So what's a day in the studio like? Is it like a 10-hour plow? Or is it just kind of whatever's going on?
It depends on the scenario, I guess. If it's like a band that's coming to town and staying here, we'll do the full day, try to take advantage of all the time and stuff. But like I've been lucky in that there's some bands I've been recording. Like I just did this record for a band called Red City Radio that came out, and they're from here. So there's a little more like, hey, why don't we come over today and do some vocals, and we can just chill and not have to stress about it.
Yeah. Well, that's a really amazing thing. So bands will come into town, stay at your place, and record all day. That's really magical. There's something cool about that, like destination recording, you know?
Yeah, and it's good. It's like when John Phillip came, we did that Mini Meltdowns record. He just came here and stayed in my house for like a week, and it was awesome.
Oh, Mini Meltdowns, that was cool. And one of my favorite records of all time, I believe you produced, is Exorcism Rock by Berwanger.
Oh, I didn't do that one.
Oh, I thought you did that one.
No, I think they did that in Norman, Oklahoma. I don't know the guy who did it, but I think it was recorded in Oklahoma.
Which Berwanger one did you do?
I haven't done any of his.
Oh, I thought you were doing all the Berwanger. I'm a piece of shit. Sorry about that.
No. I did put out or help put out an Only Children 7-inch a really long time ago. But that's the only kind of
classic
work I've done with him.
Yeah.
Who else? I love his music.
He's a legend and a funny dude. Who else do you have coming in, or have you worked with recently that the people might know?
Did a new Screeching Weasel album that came out a few months ago.
Yep.
What else have I done recently? Mixed a couple direct hit songs, which I've done a few of their albums too.
Oh yeah, they live down the street from me.
Oh yeah. Those guys. That's who probably spent the most time in Milwaukee working with them, because I've done like 3.5 albums for them now. And
great dudes.
Yeah, love those dudes. I'm trying to think, what else have I done?
But you're kind of one of the go-to guys for kind of rock and roll, power pop, punk rock, as I know it, you know. So,
I love doing that stuff. So I'm happy. I'm happy that people ask me.
I've always wondered with engineers, like how you can do days that long where your ears don't just either blow up or just be so tired you can't hear anymore. How do you maintain endurance, like when you're just listening to music for 10 hours a day?
I haven't had as much problem with my ears, because those days are more like tracking days, and usually like you're setting up whatever sounds earlier in the day, or if you switch to something else midday, you kind of reset just because you're switching what you're doing. But like the main thing is just keeping up like spirit in a way, and because sometimes they can just get daunting and long, and you know, people who are actually doing the singing or performing can get frustrated if they're not, you know, nailing it. And so that's kind of the thing I try to be conscious of, is keeping everyone like happy and like happy to be doing it. And that I think that goes a long way with making those long days not so bad.
Oh man, it all starts with the brain and the psychology, you know.
Totally.
You got to have a morale guy as much as you got to have an engineer who knows what they're doing, you know.
Totally. And and I've heard so many stories about people recording with engineers who are kind of shitty, and it just makes everyone shitty. And it's like, what? That's not like, we want to have fun doing this. What's the point of that?
Yeah. Isn't that strikes me as a very like 70s, 80s, 90s thing where like the Nazi producer that would just like be a militant drill sergeant, like, you gotta play those fucking drums right. I remember Johnny P telling me a story when he was working with a major label, and the producer was like some like legend who worked with like Bob Dylan or something, but he was a psycho. And so if Johnny P wasn't getting the right take or feel, he would scream at him, you know, like a kook. And Johnny P was just like, I'm a piece of shit, I suck at drums. And it said it just wrecked his confidence. But I mean, I guess they got what they needed because it was a cool album.
Yeah, it's like, could they have gotten that with like positive reinforcement? You know, I do know there are some producers, like the guy who produced Move Along, he was definitely one of those like, only good albums only come from conflict. And so he was always trying to like create conflict, but we were very happy and stable at that moment. We're like, dude, this is not going to work with us.
That is weird. I mean, I get it. I get it in a sense, like growing up and playing youth sports and whatever. I get like the competitive primal. That's nice to have sometimes, but it never resonated with me in music at all.
Yeah.
And here's a parallel for you, Mike. Like my brother is, he's into coaching. That's his full-time job. He coaches down at a school in Florida. But he was telling me how like all these like Bobby Knight type basketball coaches, like the screamers, psychos, the coaches who would throw the ball at you in practice and like use emotional warfare on you to inspire you. He said all those kooks are getting forced out of college basketball. So that's
good.
Also a thing of the past. And I think that just comes with that like whole like masculine energy that is slightly starting to fade away in pop culture now, which I think is kind of nice.
Yeah. I've obviously never been that kind of dude, and I've always been on the receiving end of those kind of dudes. And so I'm happy to see that go for sure.
Tell me more about that. Was there like some wobbly high school memories of like macho culture dudes giving you a hard time? I know I had a bit of that. Yeah,
nothing more than just typical like passing the hall kind of fuck with you stuff. But yeah, just especially like in the 90s, it was, not a good time for those kind of attitudes and stuff. In retrospect, I mean, I don't know that if it's much different now in high school, obviously, but it was very prevalent and not cool.
Everything I knew about high school, at least from my own experience and TV film, was like being an arty kid was not good. Like it was not cool. I mean, I remember I didn't even want to tell people I was in a band because I thought they'd call me a pussy and like make fun of me,
That's funny. Yeah, it was no good. Lots of homophobic slurs thrown around in those days at anyone who wasn't a cool or, sporty or something.
Yeah, I remember that very vividly. And, I remember like you have to look over your shoulder when you take a drink out of the bubbler so somebody doesn't smash your face into the metal, Like... I had that happen as an accident at a stadium one time, and like I still have a fake piece of my front tooth from it. God damn.
Out, like broke it in half. Ugh.
Like some guy was like going for a hot dog and he didn't see you.
Yeah, it's just like crowded and they just bumped me, and it's like, it sucked.
Yeah. There is something really savage about like stadium hallways during a game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're just like... Everyone's going in a different direction. There's like this frantic hostility. People are like trying to get hot dogs. People are generally like large in shape. I hope that doesn't sound like fat shaming, but like sporting events, it's like booze and fucking nachos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah. How's your tooth now? It looks perfect.
There was one point when we were on tour, like probably like 10 or so years ago, where the mic bumped it in just the right way that it broke off the fake part, and I had to go get it done again. But since then, it's been all good. Knock on wood. Did you get respect amongst your bandmates, like that it looked badass or anything? That one, not so much. One time we were on tour with this band of Veil, who I loved and looked up to, and it's early on in the tour, and we felt like, I don't know. We felt like maybe we were lame in their eyes. And we were playing in Dallas, and it was this club where they had these, like the PA speakers were kind of hanging over the front of the stage. And for some reason, I got to a place where I jumped and I just banged my head right into the bottom of the PA speakers, like this metal shelf, and fell down like between the monitors and the stage, like all the way to the ground, got up and finished the song. And I guess I was just like, I didn't even know it, but I was just gushing blood. And I went backstage and I just had blood running down my face, and they were all just like, what the fuck? But the fact that I just got it, and I was just like, oh, I'm okay, whatever, I'll go get some stitches. And I guess the fact that I finished the show and didn't complain and just went and got stitches, I think they were like, we knew you guys were good guys after that.
Did you leave the blood on the guitar?
I'm sure I eventually cleaned it off, but it was intense. I had to get like, I forget how many, but a bunch of staples in my head. Because it was actually like the week before we were going to shoot the video for Swing Swing. And they're like, we either have to shave your head and do stitches, or we can do staples. And I was like, let's do staples. And then for the video, we used to use a Sharpie and colored them in.
So are you kind of, I haven't seen you live. Are you kind of the buck wild, like go mental on stage guy of the band?
Yeah, kind of.
Nice.
The big dumb thing jumping around.
So what does that feel like? Is it kind of a thing where I know like Flea from Chili Peppers talks about like when he starts playing bass, he's like, he's almost in like a blackout. He just gets possessed. Does it feel like that for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I just get into it and start moving, and yeah, I don't, it's definitely not manufactured. It's just, I get up there and I just get full of energy.
What a rush, man. What a great therapy. I wish I could do that. I feel like I'm always the guy who's like analyzing everything in the room. Like, oh, does this lady hate me? Like, what does that guy think? Is he going to leave? You know, this song is not going to work next or whatever. Where, I want to be you is what I'm trying to say.
It is a good way to distract yourself from those things, for sure.
What else do you do like outside of music for kind of like mental health boosts or, you know, finding the Zen kind of thing?
I mean, I listen to a lot of records. I'm a record nerd and kind of have always been since I was 5. And so like I buy a lot of records, and that's kind of, I mean, I do a lot of like running and walking, and I don't know, that's kind of most of my day. It's like either I'm working or I'm kind of exercising in those two, either running or walking, or I'm like listening to records. And then occasionally I'll like throw a video game in or read a book, you know, that stuff. Pretty boring.
What kind of records do you kind of go with if you don't really want to focus on the music too much, if you just kind of want to like create a vibe in the room, feel good, mellow out?
I mean, I've always been like a punk kid. And so I'll put on shit that wouldn't seem mellow to anybody, but it's like just chill for me. Like put on a hardcore record and just be like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, all right, I can see it. What about video games? What are you gaming on?
Right now, I actually because I got some Nintendo eShop gift cards for Christmas. I've been playing the Angry Video Game Nerd game, which is not a chill game, really. It's like it's made to be very difficult, but it's really fun.
Is this new or like 8-bit Nintendo?
It's a new game, but it's definitely made to be like an old school game.
Interesting. Yeah.
But
I remember, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't know. I like all kinds. Like that Zelda game that came out a couple years ago, the Breath of the Wild. That was probably the most into a video game I ever got. Like when that first came out, I was playing it every day like it was a job for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's addicting. Did you ever get your hands on one of those like cartridges that has every Nintendo game ever made on it, where it's like 1,000 games? I
haven't done that, but I've downloaded the ROMs to where you can emulate them and play them on your computer. I've done that. But yeah, because I grew up in NES and stuff, so I love all those games.
Those were exciting times. Remember, like you would like specifically go to someone's house just because they had Nintendo, even if you didn't like them.
Totally.
I remember a few times feeling kind of like a pile of garbage for like going to someone's house just to play their Nintendo.
Yeah, I can definitely think of a couple instances where I went to someone who I wasn't like super down with hanging out with, but they had like Excite Bike and I didn't.
Yeah, it was just so unfathomable to have an arcade in your house, because at that point that was basically the first home gaming consoles. There was Pong, I guess, before that, right? Which was
we had Atari, the 2600. That was the first thing I had.
Was that just the Pong that you bounced the lines back and forth?
No, there was games on it too. It's that, the one that had like the wood grain panel on it. And
I don't remember that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's extremely primitive. Like it doesn't have like a lot of nostalgia to try to play those games. But like NES is the first time where it got to be like a video game, like we really think of video games.
Right, like where the characters had a soul, like
Yeah.
Mario is running around and you actually like care about him and you want to feed him mushrooms,
Totally.
I remember there was this one big kid on our basketball team junior year. He was Avercamp. He was our best player this year. And I was a little guy on the team and I was a junior. And I remember like he invited me over to play video games once. And it was just a huge deal because I was like, whoa, Avercamp wants to hang out with me. Like, that's cool. I'm like getting in with the inner circle. And he had one of those cartridges that was for Sega Dreamcast, but it had 800 Nintendo games on it. And he's like, check this out. There's all these weird, like, underground games that were never sold to the public. So there's like this Japanese game called Pussy City Pimps where they basically just took the template of Double Dragon and you're like these two karate guys, but instead of fighting with like swords and brass knuckles, you're fighting with like dildos and butt plugs.
Oh man.
There's nothing erotic about it, but it's just like these weird, nuanced, like illegal games that were only sold on the black market in like Guangzhou, China or something.
That's funny.
What was the first kind of Nintendo game you got obsessed with? Oh,
sorry, say it again. It kind of cut out.
Oh, we had a little freeze there. Yeah. What was kind of the first Nintendo game or two you got really obsessed with?
I mean, probably the original Super Mario Brothers, because that was the first one we got when we got the system. But I remember like all the Marios were definitely very big for me. And like, yeah, like when The Wizard, that movie came out, like I was so hyped to go just to see the clips of Super Mario Brothers 3 at the end because it hadn't come out yet. And, but yeah, like that, Zelda, Double Dragon, Mega Man.
Yep.
All the classic Contra. Played
Contra.
So much Contra.
Yeah. What's the code? The cheat code? Up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, A, B.
I think it's BA start. Or BA select start if you're doing 2-player.
Because I remember that game was like the hardest game. So if you didn't put on the cheat code for infinite lives, you were fucked.
Yeah, it was so tough without that.
Yeah, did you ever play... Oh, I had a thought. I was kind of thinking about when they created Super Mario Brothers, and I was trying to figure out if the creators were just like more like straight and narrow, like techie Japanese guys, or if they were like... really kind of arty, trippy, hippie dudes. Because I feel like there's all these like, I've always felt that like there's a lot of drug nuances in that game where it's like you eat the mushrooms, you trip out, you grow in size, you get the fire from the flower, then you can shoot fire. And what do you think?
Well, I've seen a lot of stuff with Miyamoto, the guy who created it, and he's definitely a pretty normal looking dude. Okay. And I've heard things like the mushrooms, I think, are like there's something in Japanese culture. I forget the story now that there's some like story that's not drug related. That's more just like a Japanese thing about the mushrooms and then growing. But no, he seems like a very normal, straight laced kind of dude, but he's just like, he created that and Zelda. And like, he's amazing.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and he still works at Nintendo. Like he's like become like a kind of like a face of Nintendo. Like he does a lot of stuff.
You know what though? You know what it might be where he seems really like straight edge, straight narrow. Maybe it's just the Japanese thing because it's like stoic and stoicism and thinking about trying to create a game like Mario when basically no video games had really been created yet. You would have to be kind of a kook.
Yeah. Yeah, and I the things I've heard about just even the limitations of programming those games, like you got to be really creative to make it look like something, and make it operate right.
Yeah, totally. I wonder if like old school video game guys like that, creators, I wonder how they feel about the new games now as it starts to feel like actual reality. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, he's never, gone away. So he's had a part in all the ones since. And so I don't know. I don't know. I imagine it's got to be weird though, if there was someone, especially like in those Atari days, to be out of it and then now see what's happening. But yeah, it's come so far. It's crazy.
Yeah. I could see it being like the elder statesman musician kind of analogy where it's like, oh, it ain't like it used to be, you know?
There's so many menus.
Yeah. Well, how's your morale at this point in time? Are you having a pretty good time and forging ahead?
Yeah, I mean it's been a bummer that, you know, all our shows this year got canceled, and they've been rescheduled to next year, but who knows if that's going to happen. And but you know, this year I had enough kind of on my plate with recording stuff that I haven't had too hard of a time, you know. Like, I mean, this year, aside from shows, it hasn't really been that different from what my normal life is like. I mostly chill at home, and you know, that's about it, and work on stuff. But I would like to get back to playing shows. I do miss it. It's taken took more than half the year for it to really like kind of sink in that, hey, yeah, this is getting out of town even for like a weekend is something that's a good reset, and I miss that.
Riddle me this, Mike. What do you love most about the whole procedure of like a tour or a show, minus the playing? Like, what do you enjoy?
I like just walking around the cities. I tend to like, you know, I wake up and I start looking at my phone, and I find the record stores, and I find the local donut shops, and I just start walking. And I just love that. I love exploring.
So you're a donut guy. Tell me, like, what is there like a donut scene?
I don't know. I tend to like, I mean, not to say that some chain places aren't bad, but I like a local place. You can find something cool, and and especially now seem to be like a lot of ones that try to do unique things. And so that's always fun. And it's just one of those fun things. Like every city's got some little unique thing like that. And you can just go find it.
Like, what's a cool donut promotion? Like they hide a action figure in the Long John?
No, more like they have like a weird flavor, you know, stacking some things on there that you wouldn't normally put on a donut and stuff like that.
That is crazy to think about. I wonder like how they make those flavors now. I feel like the food industry has come so far. I feel like you would just, if you want like broccoli flavored donut, you could just buy that in a powder and then bake with that. But I don't know.
I don't know either, but that would be awful.
A lot of people I hear like they'll say like, yeah, I don't like bananas, but I like any banana flavored candy or donut or pie.
Interesting, because that's the one I would say the opposite. I like bananas, but like banana candy is always like, ooh, I don't like that flavor.
Really? Like banana Laffy Taffy?
Nah, I can't get into it.
Do you remember Warhead sour gummies?
Yeah.
Where they were so acidic they would be sour, but B, they would burn all the taste buds off your tongue.
Yeah, I never did much of that kind of stuff, but I remember trying and just being like, oh man.
Isn't it insane to think about how much candy we ate in like growing up?
I still eat so much. Well, I mean, when I say, for me, I was never like that, like the jelly, like that kind of candy, you know, like fruity stuff. I was more of like a chocolate guy.
Yeah.
And I'm still very much that and eat way too much.
Yeah. Chocolate. I'm a fan of. I get where you're coming from on that. I remember like going to see like Billy Madison and like buying the double extra large Sour Patch and eating the whole box within the first 30 minutes of the movie. And that was like routine. But every time I would feel like a completely broken man after the film. I'd be like, but it's like, you're like feeling anxious. You're on a sugar buzz, but this is before anybody knew what anxiety even was, or like what diet or healthy eating was. So it's a different time.
Totally. It's just about moderation. Cause I eat like shit, but I'm in decent shape because I still, work out a little and don't eat too much shit. But I can eat all shit if I keep it in moderation.
You get a good buzz from the dark chocolate or the chocolate?
No, I don't think so. I just enjoy it though. I mean, definitely. Like I'm not someone who like I don't drink, I don't do drugs or anything. So like my vices are Dr. Pepper and candy. And so I don't know if I'm just living in a buzz because that's what I consume so much, but I don't know.
I love it, man. You gotta have a vice, and I just love, like, when you come to Milwaukee, we should go to like a candy store together. That sounds kind of creepy, but I think it could be actually pretty fun, you know?
Totally.
Get back in the candy scene. Well, are you a guy like I'm pretty into like dark chocolate. It's actually I feel like it helps me when I'm like feeling a little bummed. Like what's in chocolate?
Cacao.
Is it it might be the cacao. It's a little pick me up. It gives you a tiny buzz. Is there like a good brand or you recommend checking out?
Man, I'm trying to think, because lately I've just been like, I have this candy bowl that I have like next to my sink and I lately just had it filled with Butterfingers and Nestle Crunch, little like minis.
Nice.
And so I've been eating a lot of that, but I'm trying to think, like a really cool, like good non-normal candy. Oh man, my mind's going blank now.
Remember,
they're all good.
Dorks?
No, what was that one?
They were like a really kind of like nuanced, bizarre, like chewy brown candy. Not good at all, but cool packaging. And it was just called Dorks. And it had this guy in like a pocket protector and like a doily hat. But actually, we sometimes like to talk about like weird merch items, and like maybe that could be a thing. Like you get your own brand of candy bar, like Kennerty Gold.
I would be very down for that. Some kind of peanut butter chocolate thing.
Do you get into the graphic side of things, the shirts and the makings of merch or whatever, posters?
These days, like when I was in, my bands in high school and early 20s, was all about that and really loved it. And then, after the Rejects took off, it was just like we have, real designers at our disposal. And so, we're always very hands-on with that and like making notes and whatever, but actually doing it myself, it's been a really long time since I've done that stuff. But I always loved doing that stuff. I always loved making flyers. I miss that.
Yeah. There's something magic about running around town and pasting up flyers.
Totally.
Do you think that's kind of going to be a totally lost form of promotion in the next 5 years, flyering?
I don't know. It's weird because I feel like people will still make digital flyers that look like old school flyers. So I guess it'll probably still exist in some form. And I don't know, at record stores, I feel like when I walk into a record store, there's always still stuff on the windows promoting shows. So there'll probably always be a little bit of that. But I do miss it being like the prime thing.
Yeah, it's a little more exciting. It's tangible. Like people actually put an effort to physically come out of their house and paste them up there. So
yeah, totally.
What about like talking about some of your early bands? Was there like a particular worst show of your entire life that stands out?
Oh man, there were so many of those early ones where it was like, no one showed up. There was a bad one. My first band that I toured with, we did this show in like Pensacola and literally no one showed up. And the only people there were these two girls that we met outside that we put on the list. And so we played with these two people, and our drummer who was the drummer in the Rejects, Chris, he was super mad. And then me and him got in some argument at the end of the show, and he threatened to punch me. And so that wasn't a very good night.
Did you guys make up? Was it just a little bit of drunk talk?
No, I think it was just like frustration, coming out, and yeah, we were fine. I've been in bands with that guy now for almost 25 years. So yeah, we've had our ups and downs, so we always are fine.
Yeah, what a magical thing to be friends with someone for that long, but also friends that you've like spent a decade in a van with.
It's definitely a bond that is unique to that.
Yeah, it's funny how proximity and like body language and like social cues. You just like have to pick up on all of those little things. Otherwise it's like you're going to like hate each other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, seeing the like first tinges of someone being irritable and not pressing those buttons, and you know, but a lot of people, it's funny because then there's those personalities who see it and then like they jump to push them and escalate things. But I've always been the opposite. I'm always like, okay, I see what's happening here. I'm just going to chill, lay back.
Yeah. Yeah. Shine. Like I hate controversy. I want to go hide under the bench seat. But if something is really bubbling up, you know, and you can tell there's tension in the air, like I'm always the first one to just try to have a discussion about it, so the subtle pain of the uncomfortability doesn't continue anymore, you know?
Totally.
Did you ever find money in the cushion seats, or like find candy in the seats of the van?
No. I mean, I think we were all fairly kept our stuff together, but Tyson would always, he'd always take the back bench, and he was fine with just peeing in bottles rather than stopping.
I love doing that.
So there would be times where, you know, we'd hit the brakes and then like 10 bottles of pee would roll up to the front. So that was gross. But I know, that's what I think of when I think of the van stuff.
Yeah. You cut out for a sec. Are you back? You're back? You cut out for a sec.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I remember, yes, you know, on the topic of peeing in bottles, I love it. It's an adventure. It's a thrill. But I remember like when I was in college, having to go into my roommate Dean's room to find like a check for rent. And I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, this guy had like a pee bottle shrine. There was like chemistry jars. There was soda cans full of pee. There was a barometer. Anything this guy had that could hold liquid, he would pee in it. And I don't think he cleaned his room the whole year. So it just looked like a Jeffrey Dahmer's refrigerator in there.
It's like, I get it in the van because we don't want to stop. But it's like, just stand up and go to the bathroom.
In the van?
Wild. No, I mean like you're the dude doing it in his room rather than.
Yeah, I know. It's insanity. But yeah, I get it. I got a small bladder. It's I guess you don't want to hold the band up, you know?
Yeah. In the van, like it makes sense. I get it. You know, just make sure you put that cap on tight.
You know what? Since you guys sold so many records, you now have the money to install a funnel in the floor.
Totally. I've seen people do stuff like that, and it seems to work decently.
Yeah, what do you think about the whole van life movement?
I'm totally down for that. I could do that for sure.
What's on your bucket list, like for top places to check out?
You know, I don't know. I've been lucky enough to like go to so many places and do so much stuff. It's more like, I don't know, traveling and just seeing different like towns and stuff, you know, not any like specific destination, but just, yeah, I love driving through like nowhere parts of states and like just finding small towns and checking them out.
Yeah, it is really mind blowing, the things that you find that like aren't on the internet or that more people don't know about. You're like, are you kidding me? This is like a Colombian restaurant in the middle of Santa Fe that's been there for 120 years and no one knows about it. And there's a guy playing banjo in the corner. Like, you can't believe it, you know?
Yeah, like that's what I love. I love finding like restaurants, you know, like cool little things like that are just awesome. Like that's my idea of like a vacation, you know, finding cool stuff like that.
Are you a guy that kind of like does research and looks up like the weirdest places you can go in each town?
Yeah, I'll definitely look up stuff for sure.
What do you got? You got tips?
Oh no, I mean just Google and stuff. But you know, you move around and find, you know, go down a wormhole and find a bunch of information.
Yeah, man, it's really, I think it's easy to take for granted the expanse of America in this country. You know, you basically have, 50 countries in one, and you can just travel freely without a passport. It's wild.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, brother. What are you working on now? You got any projects you want to pump or anything? Or definitely tell the people about the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I record out of my place. If anyone wants to contact me, they can through Instagram at Mike AAR, all one word. And check out the new Red City Radio record, Paradise, just came out on Pure Noise Records. Let's see, Screeching Weasel, Some Freaks of Atavism came out earlier this year on the vinyls through Recess Records, but you can stream it. And what else have I done? I mixed Devin K and the Solutions album, who's Devin's from Direct Hit. It's his solo thing. It's called Limited Joy. That's out on AF Records. And
nice,
what
man.
else? Yeah, They Stay Dead. There's a band called They Stay Dead. I did their EP in a few months ago. It's really good. Yeah.
I
think
you're doing good work, man. You've got the stuff I've heard has been amazing, and
thanks, man.
Yeah, as a fan of punk rock and power pop, I would definitely send my homies your way.
Cool, thanks, man.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for coming on the pod, Mike. It was rad to talk to you, and we got to hang in real life soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, whenever I'm up there again, or if you ever come through Oklahoma.
Deal. Choop.